Hey, and welcome back to the How to Review. Today, we are going to be talking about cryptocurrency, pricing, regulation, and the outright ban of cryptocurrency. That's true. It could happen. It's happening in some places. At least the discussion is getting serious about banning cryptocurrency again. And we're going to talk about all of that right here today on the Hodl Review. This is Jeff. You guys know me. You are here exclusively on the chain. Just a quick note, if you guys like the video content today, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you're not subbed to the channel yet, you're brand new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And something brand new to the platform, if you decide that you want to support the on-the-chain efforts, you can buy some coffee. Go to the description below. All of our favorite coffees are picked out over there, from the Segfredo to Death Wish to Black Rifle, and we'll keep updating them as we check out new ones. Today, it's all about the Segfredo. And if you want to buy us a coffee, I think there's an option for that as well. But we're going to start. I think it's time. So let's go. Ah, Sigfredo, stuff is good. Good morning. It's great to see everybody this morning. Grab some espresso. I think you're going to need a little bit of a jolt, some good quality coffee with a little bit of caffeine to get through what we're going to talk about today. Because when you talk about cryptocurrency, it can be exciting. When you start talking about regulation in cryptocurrency, then you're like, oh my God, that seems like it's just way too much. So we're going to get into pricing. Like I said, we're going to get into regulation, and we got to figure out what's going on with the discussion over banning cryptocurrency digital asset. Once again, that conversation is real. So we're going to do this cross section from what's going on with Libra all the way through these different countries, from Russia, China. Let's see, what did I have picked out here? Over in Europe, France. We've got what's going on over in India, Gibraltar, back here at home in the US, what's going on over in the Bahamas. And I've got to bring it up, Chip, it's got to happen. But we're also going to look at what's going on over in China. So, and then there's a little bit at the very end, we're going to talk about what's all this about gaming and crypto as well, because I believe that if you want immediate, rapid adoption in this crypto space, like right here, right now, there's one space that's just primed for it, just waiting for it, just craving for it, and that's the gaming space. And that would then be cross-platform. I mean, think about it. Right? Imagine you're on your Xbox, or you're on PlayStation, or you're playing over on the computer. Shouldn't matter, whatever game you're playing, shouldn't there be some common currency? So imagine you're a gamer that likes to play on multiple platforms. And every time you go to a different platform, guess what? You got to start over again. You got to spend more money, more dollars, and it just keeps going and going and going. But the one thing that I've seen in the gaming space is that people, kids, adults, whoever's into gaming out there, they spend a lot of time, building up whatever it is they're working on, building up the skill sets, getting their own skill sets, collecting items. I watch my son playing Rocket League and Fortnite, and he spends so much time, winning and then collecting. And then there's different websites, even, and I've talked about this before, and they've been around for a couple years, where you can go on and actually purchase the skins and the wheels and all this stuff for your cars in Rocket League. And you're spending real dollars. But imagine if it was all cross-platform, and you can buy and sell these parts, and you can then move that currency, from platform to platform, the same currency. I think that's a game changer. But all right, we'll see what happens. We'll see what other people that are actually in that development space think about it. So, who's here with us so far this morning that have tuned in? We've got SW, and I think Chip was the first one to bounce in, then followed by SW. I like seeing people that keep coming back every stream. We've got Rod Hoppin here, Mike Kegley, we've got Crypto Cat. It's great, and XRP Hoarders on as well. Here you go, SW. Those coffee choices are about as American as it gets. Well, other than Segfredo over in Italy, but you've got the others made right over here. So, all right, let's see where are we going to start? Where should we start today? All right, here we go. Going over to the handy cheat sheet over here to see what we're going to talk about. There's just too much. Maybe we'll just call it a day, Chip. All right, we're going to start with Libra because I think that there's some big things happening. A lot of people counted Libra out in the grander scheme of things, this bigger conversation. What's actually going on with Libra? Did they just, when Congress kind of shot them down, did they just crumble and fold up and just go away? Or did Facebook say, you know what, we've got 2.5 billion users out there, and they're using all of our platforms, whether it's Facebook, original legacy, or they're going to Instagram, or they're using WhatsApp, but they've got the captive audience. The other part of it is, if you're a WhatsApp user, then that people all over the world are engaging and using WhatsApp, and it seems to be a very easy way for people all over the world to communicate. Now, guess what? Facebook knows that as well. And if they think about how can you quickly help people move money, well, guess what? You can do it directly through WhatsApp. And if you look at China, China's trying to do that through WeChat, and you see the relationship between the Chinese government and Alibaba and what they're trying to do. So we'll get into that towards the end. But for right now, we're going to go through, and try to figure all this stuff up. What's up, David D? Glad at least you popped in. Have a good day. Enjoy the day. We'll miss your poignant comments as we go through this. So, all right. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to share the screen that's not sharing. Here we go. We're going to go one by one. Let me pick up Libra. We're not going to share all of them, but we are going to talk about this. The Libra. So Libra didn't disappear. However, they are in the hiring mode again, looking for somebody that is going to take it to the next level. And so they just appointed this guy, James Emmett, as their managing director of the Libra networks. Now, Libra hasn't gone away. It is officed in Geneva. And so, there's a lot going on as far as I'm concerned. And the fact that, they're looking for somebody that is really going to make an impact. Now, here's somebody, James Emmett, as someone who is passionate about the opportunities for financial services and technology to make a real difference, I am delighted to be joining Libra Networks with a mission to enhance financial innovation and inclusion, and to deliver the operationalization of the network. So this is really, a big deal. The guy's got a lot of experience working with HSBC as well as others. And so here you have, again, can you count them out? No. Are they still going to make an impact? Yes. And that's the point, and the point has to go down to, regulation, as I don't know how to pronounce this, GPVDE internet over here. Stablecoin regulations in Europe are coming, and that's right. They're going to have some regulation on the stablecoin. Is the stablecoin more important than traditional kind of what we think of as the digital asset that isn't stable? So obviously there's a lot of conversation here. Libra, again, they're paving the way on their end of it. Big things are going to happen. If this industry wasn't moving in the direction towards development and integration, you wouldn't see all of this investment. You would see divestment. You would see people pulling out of it. You would see people trying to get away from it as fast as possible. And then when you start getting into the regulatory frameworks of it, it would be easy for them to just come out and try to crush it, but it's exactly the opposite, so that's what That's, and we're gonna dig through that a little bit more. Let's see here. One thing that I forgot to mention, even though we are streaming over there on Twitter, little surprise, I didn't get my own, and this is crazy. It's happening again with YouTube, but I didn't even get my notification from YouTube that we're streaming this morning. So I don't know what that's all about, YouTube. But it's getting to be a little disconcerting. Yesterday or a couple days ago, I posted up a video and it took a full 24 hours until I got my own notification. We have 12 people watching in the stream, and I think YouTube is officially, bottomed out to being the worst platform that, we've ever engaged with, period, ever, other than it brings us to people, but the algorithms absolutely suck. So I don't know if this is going to impact me any further on this stream, but we've got 12 people in right now, and I have not received my own notification that I'm going live and streaming. How ridiculous is that? Thank you very much, YouTube. But as soon as there's a new platform, then we're done with this platform. I can't believe it. Man, I'm just so fed up with YouTube, fed up with the algorithms and everything else. Does not make any sense, and you can't figure it out. So it's just absolutely ridiculous. All right, so let's move on from Libra. That's been monitoring my phone. Okay, 17 minutes in, and zero notification that I'm streaming here. So that's just too much, YouTube. Anyhow, oh well. So let's see here. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on from Libra. I want to get into Russia, because there's a lot of conversation about Russia out there. There's a lot there's a lot of conversation that you get from the political side about Russia. But the thing is, when we look at Russia, there's actually some things that are happening from a regulatory perspective, with some of the largest banks over in Russia, and actually maybe Russia's largest bank. Maybe I should preface it with that. But there's actually this really, really cool website that I thought that I would share. And this has to do with this, and they put this out, let me see, August 3rd. So it's been around for about almost 2 months. It's called Bitcoin Regulation. Where is Bitcoin legal in 2020? I think this is really cool, because it really gives you a perspective of what's happening, where you can, where the momentum is, as far as, adoption at a state level, or recognition, I should say, at a state level, that digital asset is actually here to stay, and growing and developing. So there's still some areas, and we're going to get into it when it comes to India. We're going to get into the idea that it's restricted, and you still have, a few other areas where they're still, resisting to allow digital asset Bitcoin to really take root. Here you have a few countries where it's outright illegal to have Bitcoin, but we're going to get into what that really means. But you have a lot of area here where it's actually legal in some of the major areas, so, and I think that's what's most important. And so when you get into where are they, getting some restrictive attitude towards it, maybe there's something else going on from a government level and an economic level as to why they are resisting. Here it's just neutral, so it's, I would rather it be neutral than legal, or neutral, I think, is a good place to be in this climate. But you get into this restricted and illegal, and that's where, you start having some issue, and that's where you're going to have people, moving things around. Now here, now again, we're just focusing on Bitcoin. Now, where Bitcoin goes, it sets a case precedent for the other digital assets, at least it should, but it's making progress in the space. And that's what we have to look at. We have to look at where they have adoption, what they understand, where there's been the biggest push, and then you try to develop it from that point. Now here, Bitcoin is accepted as a form of payment by the US federal government. And in fact, there's some congressional representatives that actually have the opportunity, the option to pay with digital asset and donate to their campaigns. Now here, in the US and you can actually you can use Bitcoin to pay for goods and services. Bitcoin mining is legal. Virtual currencies are taxed by the federal government. And so, then as you get through it, obviously there's still some lack of some clarity, some regulation. You got to get a better understanding of what's going on. But here you have, Canada, right? So, just north of us, not too far up. If you guys don't know where Canada is, Canada is one of the first countries to allow the use of cryptocurrencies. Not many people talk about what goes on over in Canada, but I think it's important to think about what actually happens in Canada as it does in other areas. So let's see. Oh, let me go back here. Okay. So that's Canada. Now, look at this. You can find Bitcoin ATMs both in the US and Canada. You can use them to trade cash for Bitcoin and vice versa. But we've known that because they've been out for a long time. What's the official? Oh, look at that. The official currency in Canada is the Canadian dollar. Didn't know that. All right. So who regulates Bitcoin in South America? Now, this is interesting. Look at this. Bolivia. If you didn't know that, but Bolivia is the only country in South America where it's illegal. It was actually banned back in 2014. Now, the head of the ASFI, here we go. The Financial System Supervisory Authority, ASFI, said that it was a pyramid scheme back in 2014. So outright banned. The Central Bank of Bolivia announced in an official statement that the usage of any type of currency which was not issued or regulated by the government or an authorized entity was illegal. So they won't even allow it over there. The ban includes Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Don't know what Peercoin or Primecoin is, but they're banned over there. Now, Bitcoins are not prohibited in Argentina. No Bitcoin government regulation exists, so it's relatively neutral, right? But cryptocurrencies aren't considered as legal tender. So this is where, when you have this uncertainty, and why is it that you have one country that bans it and says it's illegal, then another? So you need to get countries that are getting on board. Like in the US, they said, okay, we're going to identify digital asset as an accepted form of payment by the federal government. Right now, it's just Bitcoin. Canada allows use of it. So at least you have the two main blocks in North America say, okay, we get it. Then you get into South America. Some countries get it. Other countries like Bolivia, they're going to keep resisting. Now, there's other things that go on. It's not just an outright, okay, this is our opinion. There's always another component to it, from a political perspective, from an economic control perspective. There's something going at the government level, but there's always that concern with the digital asset, that not that it's just going to be used for a nefarious purpose. That, is already kind of a moot point. But here, when it comes at the country level, from a political perspective, and this is where we're going to see this in other countries as well, it's the debate over losing control of your sovereign currency, your sovereignty over your own currency, over your own national currency. And in some scenarios, what's going on in these countries, when they're already having issues with inflation of their own currency, and big swings and fluctuations of their currency. So they have problems getting that under control. However, they don't and will be very reluctant to introduce a currency where they then will lose all control over it. Because what will happen is that if you're in a country that has big swings in the valuation of your currency, right now the people are subject to your currency, and they have to hold your currency. Now, if you allow them to hold another currency and trade in another currency and use that other currency, what happens? Now they're no longer going to be willing to use your currency. And what happens to your currency when nobody uses it? It devalues even further. If it devalues even further, now you've lost all control over your own sovereignty, over your people. And that's the aspect that you have to really consider of what can happen. Now, in other countries where you don't have those big swings, and the mainstream adoption, there's not going to be, this big tendency to go out and not just hold your digital asset, but put it there because you're afraid of your own fiat currency, but then start using it on a regular basis to trade. So take the US for instance. Right now, overall the currency is relatively stable, and we can argue over the decades, whatever the changes, but overall the currency is stable and also identified as the global reserve currency. But for this point, people are not in a major rush in the United States at this moment to go out and get digital asset because they're afraid of wide fluctuations of their currency, and then want to use it because I don't want to accept fiat currency because today it's valuable, tomorrow it's not. Nobody's in that major rush. Now, if you go to a place maybe in Bolivia, they're having, and we'd have to dig into it a little bit more, but if you go to a place like India where you have wide fluctuation, if you go to other areas like in Venezuela, because of the political issues and the fascist rise of the government over there that's really clamped down on people's earning powers, and the implementation of full socialism and totalitarianism from a political perspective has really choked the economy in Venezuela and destroyed their economy. And so the people there are looking and saying, look, the Bolivar is now valueless. It has no value anywhere outside the borders of Venezuela because of the inflation on that currency that's in the millions of percent. And so for them, they look at a digital asset or a Bitcoin, they're like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing. We got to put our money over there. And they want to trade in it. And this is their way out. So that becomes, really, really crucial. So, all right, let me oh, you know what? I was gonna just a side note, and then I think it'll be interesting to talk about that after. But Mike is bringing up Alex Mashinsky talking crap about XRP. I didn't hear it, but I'm gonna have to go in and see. But let's see what he says. He said XRP had an unlimited supply, and that 1 billion are released into circulation each month, regardless of market conditions. So obviously, there maybe there's a misunderstanding, but he's not the kind of guy that misunderstands. But just as a side note to that, but that, it is accurate. There's 1 billion that's released every single month regardless. But at the same time, when it's unused, they put it right back into escrow, and it's built into the rules. So that's the one thing, that they have to identify. Yeah, exactly, Dustin, 100%, that they might be releasing it every month, but there's only 100 billion, and they don't just let it go out into the wild. They are only using the amount that is needed for the financial institutions, banks, promotion of the space, and then it goes. And a lot of times they put the majority of it right back in. Now, can it happen that it stays out? They would have to change the rules of the escrow agreement. So, and that's something I'm shocked that he didn't bring that up and talk about that. But that really goes down to everything else. Even from a regulatory framework, that's even, that would be more of like a self-regulation mindset of what he's talking about, but you got to come at it with the facts. So I'm really shocked. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that AMA section and see exactly how what he said and how he said it. So here in Europe, who regulates Bitcoin in Europe? And I think this is important because we looked at North America, South America. For some reason they missed over Mexico here, but they went straight to where it was illegal. Let's zip up real quick to the map that they added. They show it as illegal in Mexico. I'm gonna have to do a little more research on what's going on in Mexico specifically. But let's get to Europe. So 45 countries in Europe, it's already legal in 45 countries. I think that's really important because we're starting to see a lot of changes. We're starting to see a lot of adoption over there. We're going to talk about what France is up to, because France is doing something interesting with Tezos, as well as there's something interesting going on over in Sweden with Corda. And so they're identifying that it's not just legal, but they need to utilize it. They're looking at this as an important technology. But again, you're looking at a region like in the EU, and or in Switzerland, where they don't have big fluctuation in currency. So here you have exchanging Bitcoin for fiat currency is exempt from VAT in Ireland. Wow, that's huge. Another reason to move to Ireland. There's reasons not to, but awesome place. If you guys haven't been to Ireland before, I highly recommend taking a trip over to Ireland. Amazing place. I love every time I go over there. It's amazing. I've been over there just as a stopover for like 2 days. I've been there for long trips. I love going there. It's an absolutely awesome place. The fact that you can trade currency and it's exempt from VAT, I think is important. They also have low corporate tax rates at like, I think 15%. So there are 2 licensed cryptocurrency banks in Switzerland. That's big. The first Bitcoin ATM in Europe was in Bratislava, Slovakia. Cryptocurrency is legal in almost all countries in Europe. Some nationals are looking into the specifics of crypto regulation, and that's where we actually saw something new, and we're going to go into it again. But here there's an article that said Europe calls for strict regulations on digital currencies. We're going to see what that's all about. So there's so much going on, but here, according to the EU VAT directive, the exchange of currencies used as legal tender is exempt from VAT. So if you're going to use it as legal tender, you can't pay tax on a thing that you're going to be taxed, where you're going to get taxed on the product and you're going to get taxed on the currency. The Irish government agency dealing with taxation published a guide which stated that exchanging Bitcoin for fiat is exempt. So we just said that, but it's emphasizing it. Interesting. Here's the 2 Swiss banks. So North Macedonia is the only European country where cryptocurrencies are illegal. You don't hear a lot about Macedonia, and it's only North Macedonia. The National Bank warns that crypto transactions are associated with criminal activities. So as we know, that's like an old mindset. Yes, they can be, but so is fiat currency. So you know what? I think in Macedonia, they should ban all fiat currency as legal tender. That'll take care of the problem. No more fiat, no more cash. Get rid of the cash. Go to only digital bank transactions, which maybe is the direction they want to go to. But investing in virtual currencies is also illegal over there in Macedonia. Now, we could go through and fact check. I didn't fact check this whole thing, but I thought it was really so the central bank warned its citizens that speculating is a financial risk. So now if you go into it and we look and we say, okay, what's going on in Macedonia? What is the Macedonia, how is the Macedonia, foreign currency? What is it, to the US dollar? One Macedonia dinar is 0.019 of a US dollar. So we probably have major inflationary issues in that country, going on. That's what I would make that assumption. That you have big issues. I'm looking for some interesting data on this. Let's see. North Macedonia's foreign exchange reserve was measured at 3.6 billion in August, compared with 3.6 billion the previous month. Their foreign exchange reserves, June 20th, and a record low of 88.7. That was, never mind. Okay. Money supply increase, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. There's nothing here specifically, but anyhow, you kind of get to that point. Now let's get into Asia. I think that's interesting. If you're in Macedonia, go somewhere else if you want to trade in Bitcoin. Now in Asia, Bitcoin is legal and regulated in Japan. When we went to that map, you can see most of it was legal. South Korea and Pakistan, it's amazing to me. How is Pakistan improving Bitcoin regulation and India is choking cryptocurrency regulation? It amazes me. But here, Pakistan will regulate cryptocurrencies to fight financial crimes. It amazes me that Pakistan is on the forefront and India is on the back front. They're going the other direction. South Korea is imposing regulation on the transparency of cryptocurrency exchange. We saw them shut down a major exchange for fraud, but at the same time, they want better regulatory clarity. It can't be the Wild West. But here, Pakistan is working on regulating cryptocurrencies in order to fight financial crimes. money laundering, tax evasion, financing terrorism. That's a big one. Financing terrorism, major issue. You know that Pakistan's getting a lot of flack over this one. This is a major issue. Now, cryptocurrency trading is banned in China, right? We know that that's happened for a long time, but there's other things that are going on over in China. We also know that they're rolling out their digital yuan. A lot of stuff happening. But we also know that from a political perspective, China has a chokehold on it from a political perspective, but an economic perspective, as the communist government manipulates how they want things to adapt and change. Even at the corporate level, I see direct implication of the communist government, how they manipulate things. I've never seen anything like it before. One company that I'm dealing with, we dealt with for a long time, Chinese company, not a US company manufactured in China, but a company in China that has innovated their product in this industry to be one of the best products in the industry. Could there be concern of a backdoor? I'm suspicious that it could be a possibility. We've seen it with the drones. We've seen it, with a software platform like TikTok. We've seen it with other platforms where there's a concern, because at the end of the day, the Chinese government, when a corporation gets to a certain level, they take a position of power on the board where they can manipulate the direction things are going in. The one company that we've been working with, amazingly, they themselves, which they're getting pressure from somewhere else, are manipulating the ebb and flow of product due to hitting specific financial target numbers and choking the flow of product, because they can't have, from a stock share perspective, to report back to the government and the shareholders, they can't have their sales of product increase beyond a certain percentage over their forecasting amount. So they're choking the movement of product. Although the inventory is available, they refuse to ship the inventory that's already in the US to be delivered, because they need to manipulate the reporting of the stock into the next quarter. Now, can that happen? I've never seen an American company that says, no, you know what, we've reached our quota and we're not going to ship any more product because we, are afraid of how the impact is going to be, because we might go over too much, and then maybe next month we'll be below quota. So we're just going to, manipulate it, artificially manipulate the flow. That's what goes on over in when you're dealing with companies over in China, and that becomes a major issue. So, all right, where were we here? All right, I'm spending a lot of time on this. This article to me was really just interesting, because you can have so much conversation over it. So thank you very much for whoever wrote it and put it together. Bitcoin regulation. Australia and New Zealand have taken decisive measures towards legalizing Bitcoin. Awesome. Australia legalized crypto in 2017, and they're subject to taxation. And we also know that you see, what is that? The FX platform. Can't remember the name. Chip, maybe you can throw it into the chat, or somebody, where the FX exchange utilizing the XRPL, utilizing ODL. Amazing. There's a lot. So much happens over in Australia. It's another country. People think it's all about koala bears and Foster beer and big spiders. But there's a ton of things that go on over in Australia from a financial perspective. Unbelievable. So here, then you get into New Zealand. Bitcoin is legal. And here it's used as a form of payment in New Zealand. So again, two countries where you have no issue with their financial system. They're not threatened by it. Here, Samoan, Vanuatu, not recognized as legal tender. That's okay. A business license is required to promote cryptocurrency in Samoa. Investing in crypto is not encouraged by their central bank. Maybe because, again, they're concerned over the sovereign currency. They're concerned about that. Bitcoin regulation in Africa. The legality of crypto varies. So in 4 countries, it's legal. South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Nigeria. Nigeria is another amazing country, because there's huge amounts of progress development going on over in Nigeria. A couple of years ago, or maybe more, Nigeria was the epicenter of fraud. Now Nigeria is developing into an epicenter of development in the blockchain space. Maybe fraud too, but there's a ton going on over there. Really impressive. The fact that even Zimbabwe has moved in that direction, because Zimbabwe a number of years ago, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a transfer of power, and in that transfer of power, they moved and they took all of the lands and farms that were owned at that time by white farmers, and they had a full transition over. And so what happened was the person that came into power ended up, and it was such an interesting case study in Zimbabwe, but he ended up giving out all of these farms that they confiscated, and he just handed out not to people that understood the farming business, but just gave it out to friends. And you saw corruption at the highest level. So what happened in Zimbabwe? Zimbabwe was a major producer of agricultural product and exporter of agricultural product. Within a very short period of time, it went from a major exporter to a country that was reliant on handouts from the United Nations. I mean, it's such an amazing case study on the fall of Zimbabwe economically, similar to like Venezuela. I mean, it's unbelievable. When you saw that transition happen and you saw the corruption that took place. But it's interesting to see now, because then the people end up suffering. So the people look at it and they need to make changes. But to see that, a country like Zimbabwe, that, they need to change. They want to get back on track. They want to participate in the global economy, as does Nigeria, as does Namibia. They want to participate in the global economy, and they're seeing the writing on the wall in this digital asset space that for them to take a seat at the table, and this is what's going to happen. And it's interesting because one thing that Alex Mashinsky did tell us in an interview was the people of tomorrow that are going to hold positions of power and be at the table are going to be different than the people of yesterday. So you have all the big banks and the owners and everything, old money in the banking industry. They're still going to be there, but the future in this digital asset space, you're going to see new people in it. And so a lot of these countries are going to have an opportunity to have a seat at the table to actually determine from a global perspective the adoption of digital asset and digital currency. Now, there's obviously a lot of resistance, but this is where things get really exciting, because of this, where you start seeing places like in Africa where people are going to have this opportunity for global participation, whether from trade or whatever else, where they might not have had that opportunity before. So here, illegal in 3 African countries: Algeria, Egypt, and Morocco. I find that really interesting. But when you understand the economics of a place like Egypt and the issues over there from a political perspective, you start to understand one of the reasons why they would also make it illegal. Now, I don't know, a lot of people think that Egypt is in the Middle East, whereas in fact, Egypt and Libya are actually not in the Middle East, they're actually in Africa. And so that's important. But here, you also have cryptocurrencies are prohibited under Islamic law in Egypt. But there is some issues when you look at it. Really interesting from a financial perspective. When you look at what can adhere to Sharia law and meet the Sharia doctrine, financial doctrine. One of the things that they actually fall there, and there's definitely some conflict of opinion, but even interest on an account is against Sharia. It's prohibited in certain regions. Paying interest on a loan is prohibited under Sharia. And so when you understand that, and then they have workarounds on how do you actually then, if you have a mortgage, if you have the interest, how do you pay it without actually paying interest, because you're not allowed to do that, and so it's interesting, right? The dynamics, and they figure out the way to work around it, but Egypt, it's interesting that, in Egypt is one specific that they singled out. Nothing here on the Middle East at all. I'd like to have seen some issues, some details here. Oh, there we go. Look, Bitcoin is considered haram in Egypt and prohibited by Islamic law. However, a new bill is on the way, which will lift this cryptocurrency ban. The Central Bank of Egypt is expected to introduce a new crypto regulation. So something that we got to look at, really, really interesting. This article, I think whoever put this together, like I said, what a great job they did, talking about this as a cross section for us to be able to spend some time and review this. And I didn't even get into any of the other articles that I thought would be interesting to kind of back up this conversation. But man, that was really, really amazing. Diesel Hound, VeChain is big in China. Let's see. Just make sure to get into other great projects. You never know what's going to happen. That is true. There are tons of them, and there's tons of things that are developing, a ton of amazing projects on the horizon. Again, for all those that are watching, I still didn't get my, let me see, did the notification come through? Let's see, is this my notification or somebody else's? Nope. I got Digital Perspective, Blockchain Monkeys, but no, nothing popped up for me. How do you like that? That's awesome. Awesome. Fantastic. So here we go. So anyhow, okay, let me get into a little bit. We have some time here together. If there's anything else you guys want to mention, go ahead and throw it over in the chat. But I think we get to here's something, just a quick quote here. I think it's interesting, but the Bank of International, this is on CoinDesk, the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, the international body nicknamed the central bank for central banks, is on the lookout for a blockchain engineer. The BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, again, they consider it the central banks of central banks. They need a blockchain engineer. They're looking for a DLT blockchain engineer. Why? Why would they want that? I don't know. Does it have anything to do with the fact that they're trying to figure out the CBDCs? Here it says, BIS doesn't divulge what the new hire will be looking at, but the ad says this could include central bank digital currencies, digital securities, and other token-based systems. I mean, that again, you want to look at all these countries that are banning it. We want to be concerned about the space it's going in. We know where it's going. Look at Bitcoin right now at over 11,000. Ethereum is hovering at 384. XRP at 25 cents. Unbelievable. Stellar here at 7 cents. But Bitcoin making that big push from that 10,300 to 10,800 range, getting back over 11,000. It's amazing, right? I mean, the whole thing is amazing. And then Russia. All you hear from the political clowns here in the U.S. is Russia, 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 Russia. We spent 3 years hearing about Russia. Russia's like dead silent, right? Nothing out of Russia. You don't hear anything. Russia's like this big. Before the Obama administration came in, Russia was almost non-existent as far as an economic power, and they still had regional influences and everything, but they had almost dropped off. The U.S. influence and EU influence throughout different regions was at its highest point. And then what happened, and you saw it happen during at the end of the first Obama administration. Obama outright told Putin, he said, look, when I get reelected, I'm going to have a lot more flexibility. He was caught on a hot mic saying that specifically, 100%. Specifically, the media buried that concept. And then what happened in the 4 years after that was a back off. You saw the U.S. back off of any control over in the Middle East. You saw Russia come in and take a dominant position in Syria and over Lebanon. And at that point, the U.S. and the Middle East and the EU or the EU and the Brits and really part of that coalition, there was more control. Then you started seeing the issues again with Iran. You saw the destabilization in Iraq, but you started to see Russia really meddle and start, getting involved in areas that they wouldn't have been involved in prior to that. But then what do? They immediately, at the end of the Obama administration, going into 16, all of this stuff had already happened. And what do? They immediately point the finger at Trump and say that Trump was the one that was somehow cohorting with the Russians. And I'm like, come on, this is such, we're not in the Soviet Union era. The Cold War's over. The Russian influence in the world, yes, they have their spy networks. come on, the U.S. has always tried to meddle in their affairs electronically, and from a publication perspective, they've always been somehow meddling in ours. But the open door policy in the Obama administration, forget about how you think about it politically, just look at the facts on the ground of what it did to have Russia meddle. Why is all this important? Because now we've heard really nothing out of Russia, but the significance of what's going on from a political perspective. But then you think Russia, okay, Russia is going to be the one to ban blockchain. But look what happens. Russia's largest bank. Oh, I'm not sharing this. Shoot. I thought I was sharing this screen this whole time. Hang on. CryptoCat got the notification 41 minutes ago. See that? I still haven't gotten mine. Let's see here. Where did Russia go? Oh, here. I just want to pull this up because, here you have, Russia's largest bank joins a blockchain trade finance platform. Subsidiary of Bank, Russia's largest bank, has joined a blockchain-based platform for commodity trade finance. Right? Sberbank Switzerland has signed an agreement with Swiss trade finance platform Congo to apply its blockchain-powered trade finance. I mean, that's awesome, right? Because here you have, Russia's largest bank, partnering now with a bank over in Switzerland to allow for the digital asset movement within Russia. And again, you would expect that Russia would be the one to back off, where in reality, Russia is the one that's actually taken a very active role. I think that's interesting. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And then you have here, this was on CoinGeek, but here you have, and we had talked about this last week also, but Europe calls for strict regulation on digital currency. But what does that mean? Strict regulation. They have to get, out of this Wild West mentality, got to figure out how all of the EU nations are going to work within digital assets. We saw something similar come out within the US, make it at least having a framework of allowing the opening of these digital asset exchanges and making things move seamlessly and quicker. But here it says some of the largest economies in Europe are calling for strict regulation to govern the digital currency industry. So they're not saying clamp down on the digital industry. They're saying they want strict regulation to govern it because you got to get it from all over. But guess what it comes down to? And this is what we were talking about in the beginning. France, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, and Germany urged the European Commission to formulate policies that preserve the region's monetary sovereignty. Exactly what we were talking about. So here their concern is that if they don't preserve the monetary sovereignty of the euro, then what happens? Now we're already starting to see it because France, and we're going to talk about France in a second, is developing their own CBDC. Sweden, Switzerland, Switzerland is not part of the EU, but you're seeing countries in Europe that are developing their own CBDCs. So it's interesting. That's what they're afraid of. They don't want to lose sovereignty over things. That's their concern. The commission must also prohibit the use of stable coins in the region until legal. Because a stable coin is too close to an actual currency. That's how they look at it, and it's going to be pegged to something. So they're concerned about it. They want to make it legal, but they have to have a framework for making it legal. Europe is in the spotlight in the emerging stablecoin race. Facebook's Libra association being based in Geneva, Switzerland. Obviously, a lot going on. All stablecoins are pegged with reserve assets denominated in the euro or other currencies of EU member states and deposited in an EU approved institution, the minister said. So things are going to happen. They're moving in that direction. They're trying to figure out how to work with the stable coin. They don't want stable coins to be used in the interim because it replaces the EU. And what does it go back to? Monetary sovereignty. So I think that becomes really important. As we had talked about right in the beginning. Now, while all this is going on, check this out. Let me share this. Hang on. Is Tether pegged? Tether is pegged to air. That is the Cold War. There you go. There's Xeon Bit. He gets it. That's the Cold War. Get it. Augusto Barbosa. Good to see you here. But yeah, that is the Cold War. That's the conflict. That's the conflict that's going on right now. Because it's like at a standstill, right? And that's what happens. And one side or the other has got to win And we got to figure out, as you go through it, and then it ramps up even further as it's going to be between nations. Then you enter into a whole different conversation. But check this out. So while we're looking at what the EU is doing, and their concern is, here you have Tezos to power France's CBDC stablecoin experiment. France will allow SGF and Nomadic Labs to demo a Tezos-based stablecoin. So we just looked, and the EU and France was participating in that, but they wanted to ban the use of stablecoins until it was made legal, while France is testing out a CBDC stablecoin experiment. You get it? So now they don't want all these other stablecoins in there because they want to test out their own. They really want to have their own stablecoin, whatever they decide to build it on. In this case, they want to build it on the Tezos blockchain. SGF is one of several potential partners that France's central bank has enlisted to demo a euro-pegged stablecoin. Now, it's interesting because right now France doesn't have its own sovereign currency. It uses the euro. They once had their own sovereign currency until the EU, but now you have an issue, right? So it's interesting that the European body as a whole is concerned about their monetary sovereignty of the EU. They're not talking about the monetary sovereignty of the individual nation, but what they do want is to make sure that their central bank digital currency is now pegged, is a euro peg. They want to peg it to the euro. They don't want to get, and this is the problem. So that they're going to peg it to the euro, then the euro is either in circulation or it's not in circulation. But if France is going to have now their own digital currency, and this kind of changes the dynamics, it makes it really interesting because it allows countries to somewhat gain their sovereignty back. So now you're going to have a French franc digital currency stable coin. So in France, when you go to France, you're going to use the franc. It's going to be represented on your phone, and it's no longer going to be the euro. It's going to be the French franc or whatever they used to call their currency. But the thing is, where is the value? The value is now pegged back to the euro. They're trying to keep the stability and consistency of the EU body through a monetary policy while trying to achieve independence from that same currency, if that makes any sense. The Ukraine also plans to build a stable coin on Tezos. The question is, what are they going to peg it? Are they going to peg to the euro? Are they going to peg to something else? But I think it's really, really interesting the direction this is moving in, because as France does it, Germany does it, everybody else does it. They create a CBDC stablecoin. The commonality through Tezos allows the European bodies to trade with one another, because they're going to, if they're all built on the same framework, then it allows that to happen. So what we do know, though, is that the Krona is building on the Corda platform. They're not building it on the Tezos platform in Sweden. Switzerland also developing their digital currency, also not building on Tezos. So now you're going to have France do their thing. Everybody's going to do their thing. But is the rest of the EU going to build on the Tezos blockchain, or is it just going to be them? Now we start seeing the problem, right? So you have your CBDCs, and with your CBDC, now you've created a walled garden, and you're causing a tension and conflict in the interoperability of your central bank digital currency, lack of trade because of the platform, lack of communication, potentially. I'm not saying 100%, but you want to be able to streamline it and simplify it. Now, welcome to RippleNet. This is where all these things come full circle, and they all seem to piece together, and you start figuring it out. And it's not, oh, I'm a Bitcoin maxi and nothing else is going to ever exist, or, you know, XRP is the best coin, you know, token ever, or I'm only into Ethereum. You know what? You start looking at all the variables, and, you know, I'm going to have to look into Tezos more. And why is it that, why are they using Tezos as the backbone foundation of their CBDC? We'll have to look at that and find out, you know. But interesting. Morton Hell says here, and this is interesting. BTC could be a more trusted collateral than gold and real estate in the future. Exactly. And this is globally. So imagine all these corporations. What was the company? Oh man, what is it? Micro, you guys know. Come on, that thing. Come on. Shoot, man, micro. Yeah, it is MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy, Bitcoin. How much did he buy? Check this out. So to your point, to Morton's point, this is awesome. MicroStrategy CEO bought $425 million worth of Bitcoin. Why did he buy it? He said, I didn't buy it to sell it ever. Why did he not buy it to sell it ever? Because if he bought it as the corporation, imagine when that goes up in value, imagine what that does to the valuation of your company when you have that much value built into it. Your stock goes through the roof because the people look at it, it's like, imagine he's holding gold, right? And he's backing up his company valuation with gold. In this case, MicroStrategy is building up his corporate vault with Bitcoin, and the valuation, no matter what, $425 million in Bitcoin today, it goes up to 20,000. He's going to have $1 billion sitting there as a war chest to back up the valuation of his company. Now imagine that. I mean, can you just imagine that? Now imagine other companies do the same thing. And that's the trend potentially of the future, that these companies realize they have huge, amounts of money they're sitting on right now. But if they want to create that stability, just like Morton is saying, you put that into a collateral that creates amazing, amazing wealth for that company, but solidifies their stock, for a long time to come. Companies and countries are seeing that. As an individual, imagine you're able to take that and put in. So that was, here he said he bought another 175 million. What is this? This is 4 days ago. Did he up it? It was a total of four. No, it's up and beat. No, two. Okay, that's what I thought. All right. So he had 300. He had less than, but he now has 38,250 Bitcoins. 38,000 Bitcoins that he bought to hold up the valuation of that company. I mean, that's mind-boggling. That's unbelievable. I mean, that's huge. Now you get others that do the same thing, and you're talking about it's just massive, just absolutely massive. So then we go into, and I know we're kind of at that, almost at that hour point here, but India. India is interesting because since August, there's so much conflict in ideas over there, but a lot of it comes down to maintaining the sovereignty of their currency. This is what they're struggling with. This is why you need precedents of regulatory clarity. You need other countries to establish regulatory clarity, to establish that precedence, to start making it happen, to allow other countries to then adapt and adopt. And countries that are more concerned, because if you don't, you're going to be left in the dust. Now, India is on the forefront of technology. India is on the forefront of their entire economy just blowing up through the roof because of what happened over in China. And all the companies fleeing China, a lot of them are establishing themselves over in India. But as of August, government official updates progress of India's crypto law. So there's this conflict, this tension. Is it going to be banned? Is it going to be regulated? What's going to happen? But here you have, and I'm not sharing this. So let me just share this right quick. Shoot. Okay, here, let's share this one. And then you guys will see this. Check this out. Where's India? Okay, so check this out. A government official has reportedly confirmed that a note regarding the legal framework for cryptocurrency in India has been forwarded to related ministries for interministerial discussions. It would then be presented to the cabinet. So here's the status. India's crypto bill is back in the limelight on Tuesday. This was a month ago, though, after Money Control reported on a note that seeks to ban trade in cryptocurrency. So this was a month ago. Now let's see here. Then we get into, still a month ago, India government actively working towards new crypto ban. So, so there's like one after another. So there's another article. Again, the conflict. They don't know exactly where they're going. But in March, here it says the Supreme Court of India struck down a blanket ban on banks dealing with crypto businesses that had been imposed by the RBI, by their central bank. back in July of 2018. So I don't know if you guys remember that, but an outright ban on crypto trading by the bank, by their central bank. So, and this was in opposition to what the government wanted to do or not. But now the Supreme Court has struck that down. So banks, you can't have a blanket ban. So there's other things that are happening and developing that will continue to go on over in India. But here you have this again. This was about a month ago. So much happened a month ago. India's cryptocurrency spring may give rise to new industry. Now I see it once they can get over this ban and start opening it up. There's so much that can happen over in India, and a lot of these articles and people that are discussing it also believe the exact same thing. Now here's something. This was September 16th. This comes to Brad Garlinghouse. I don't know if you guys saw this. This was on Cointelegraph. Let me just share this one with you guys real quick. Let's see. Share screen. Where is he? Brad. Here we go. So check this out. So this is Brad Garlinghouse, right? Here he comes out. Ripple CEO criticizes India's looming crypto ban. This was just a couple days ago. So here, for the past month, India has been churning and deciding and debating and not figuring it out. But Indian government officials are reportedly planning to discuss a new bill whose legal framework would ban cryptocurrency on the subcontinent, while Pakistan, as we read, is going the other way. So if Pakistan's going towards the legalization or the acceptance of, and India is going away from it, could be really, really detrimental to them. So here, this was September 15th on Bloomberg. The Indian federal cabinet is considering a law. They haven't decided anything. So anonymous source claimed that the Indian government would encourage the development of blockchain, but not crypto trading. And this is what they've said for years and years and years. They love the blockchain tech. They don't like the crypto trading. Why don't they like it? Because they see it as a direct competitor to the rupee. That's the problem. The rupee fluctuates big in valuation, and it causes a lot of problems. But because of that, they don't want their currency to just diminish. Now, India about 2 years ago made a huge push towards the digitalization of the rupee, physically destroying fiat currency. They got rid of a lot of big bills, and they pulled the bills out of people's hands. There's a whole subset of their economy, of their population, that live day to day on fiat paper currency. While India is pushing a majority of their country in that direction, they pushed a huge percentage. I forget what it was, like 80% or something like that, over to digital currency. Not this kind of digital currency, but the digitalization, just moving money through like Zelle or whatever, just using legacy platform, but the digitalization of the currency, I should say. Now it's crazy, right? So we know that this happened, but here, what does Brad Garlinghouse said it's disappointing, stating that cryptocurrency had the potential to help underserved populations in the country. And he's so spot on. The unbanked and the underbanked. This is a segment of the society. So in India, and I've talked about this before, but you have 1.2, 1.3 billion people. About 750 million of them are in that unbanked, underbanked grouping, right? And here he's saying, as of May, roughly 190 million. But then you have the underbanked. So you have 190 million people. We have 330 million people in the U.S. Imagine that more than half of your population is unbanked. They're not even banking. But here, obviously there it's just a fraction of their society, but that's a lot of people that aren't banked, and they're the ones using the paper currency. They're the ones that don't have access to bank accounts and if you don't have access to bank accounts, you don't have access to financial instruments, you can't get ahead. You're always going to live day to day on your basic fiat cash in hand currency. You can never get to the next stage. You can't buy a vehicle. You can't go and get a house. There's too many, you can't build your business. There's too many limitations. And so the one space that they believe that digital asset would bring to a place like India would be this major boom, of moving people from the underbanked and the unbanked. Underbanked is and if you look at the cost of banking, so many of them, they can't put their money in the bank. It's hard. There's no banks in their area to get to. So it'd be hard for them to get to the bank. There's going to be cost to put their money in the bank. They don't have enough money to put in the bank. I mean, there's all these different variables as to why they're unbanked or underbanked, but the digital asset space is something, especially the boom in the economy of India right now. This is probably one of the most important discussions for the future of the growth of their economy. And I think here it says there have been reports since June of Indian government officials considering a new law which could ban crypto. Unlike RBI's approach of essentially blacklisting banks, which I don't think, and obviously the judge struck that down, or the Supreme Court, because it's not legal for them to do that, but they did it. But the government's now considering banning it through legislation, which would be more binding, which could be devastating, absolutely devastating. So something has got to happen. And this is what they always do. It's always been pushed out. But they can't have a blanket ban. It'd be so detrimental. Absolutely detrimental. But now, while that's happening, right, what's happening in other news? Here we go. Let me see. Let's see. Okay, so check this out. Hang on. This one's important because as we're talking about India, again, we brought up Pakistan and all of this, but Gibraltar, they update distributed ledger guidance to match FATF crypto rules. The Gibraltar Financial Services Commission has updated its guidance notes for DLT providers. The regulator announced Thursday the amended guidance now includes clarity on token issuance and recommendation for risk management. So this is, we're starting to see countries adopt some regulatory clarity, right? The EU has criticized Gibraltar's effort to stem money laundering in the past, mentioning its DLT rules in the process. Currently, 13 DLT providers are licensed under Gibraltar regulator, including international platforms eToro, Zappo, and I don't know those two, but eToro. But this is where you're starting to see the movement. You're starting to see some changes. You're starting to see even the smaller countries, they get it. Again, it goes back to having a seat at the table. They see the writing on the wall. They want a seat at the table. They're making that adjustment to have a seat at the table. And I think that aspect of it is really, really important, to where they want that seat at the table and they're going to get that seat at the table. Whereas other countries like India, which is mind-numbing, that they're going to potentially, kill their seat at the table when they should be on the forefront of adopting and trying to adapt blockchain technology, which they want to do. But the digital asset aspect of it could be a game changer for their population. I mean, it's amazing, that they don't. Now, let me bring this up because now we get into the U.S. I know that I'm going over time. There's a ton of stuff to go through yet. I just wanted to get all this in. I know I packed way too much stuff in here for this stream. But let's go through because there's still some other interesting, because now we got to get into the U.S. and we have to see what's going on in the U.S. There's a ton of people here on the U.S. and elsewhere, but this becomes important, right? So because we're looking for that regulatory clarity, we want to see the changes. The guy at the forefront of the Token Taxonomy Act, Darren Soto, he's a Democrat. He co-sponsored, co-authored the Token Taxonomy Act with Warren Davidson, a Republican. The two of them have been spearheading the digital asset space in Congress, amongst others, Republican and some Democrats. You have people like Tom Emmer, Republican, and others that have been pushing for some clarity in the digital asset space. Darren Soto is one of them. Darren Soto, on his donation page, has BitPay. Now, right away, you can go here, but it's there. They could have highlighted it maybe somewhere else, maybe right up here. But, it's interesting. But look at this. You got Bitcoin, you got Ethereum, XRP, so you can use BitPay to donate directly to his campaign. What does that say? That's saying that, hey, he believes in the space and he's putting it up there, and he wants his people to have the opportunity to also be able to pay in that space. He's probably not collecting digital assets. If it's going through BitPay, he's probably taking dollars, but it's a mindset, right? So that's the direction that he wants to move in. That's what he's promoting. So hang on, where's that's the US. I mean, there's other issues and interesting things that are going on, from a regulatory perspective in the US. But I think here's something else. Again, we're looking at Gibraltar, we're looking at these other countries that are adopting and adapting to this space, right? So look at this one. Hang on a second. This is the Bahamas. Now, it's so important to look at it from a global perspective so we get a good understanding of where the digital space is going. We saw France testing on Tezos. Here, the Bahamas, this was 3 days ago. They're right there. They're getting ready. But the Bahamas will launch a digital central bank sand dollar in October. It's going to be one of the first. The first. Not one of the first. The Bahamas is going to become the first country in the world to roll out a state-backed virtual currency nationwide, and it's going to be called the digital the sand dollar. Awesome, right? The assistant manager of e-solutions at the Central Bank of Bahamas told Bloomberg that the digital currency dubbed sand dollar is intended to drive greater financial inclusion among the remote islands within the archipelago nation. It's amazing. Really, really, really cool. And we saw it pilot last year. So it piloted a year ago, and now, look at that. This is great. Representing populations. It was done just on this small island, but of about, what is that? Like 24,500 and change people that were using it. But each sand dollar, it's a stable dollar, is pegged to the Bahamian dollar, which is in turn pegged to the US dollar. While only 48,000 sand dollars were issued in the pilot, the project was hailed a success. So interesting, right? They're pegging it to the Bahamian dollar. It's a stable coin. It's a digital currency that's pegged, stable coin, still based on their currency, but their currency then is pegged on the US dollar. Eventually it's pegged back to the US dollar, but it allows for the seamless inclusion of their population, and that to me is it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome for them to be able to do this. It's outstanding. So that's at the Bahamas. We talked a little bit about China. Forget it. I was going to bring up some other articles. We already brought them in. Not so exciting. However, you do see, we talked about gaming. I'm not going to talk about Lightbringer. I downloaded it. I checked it out, and I wasn't so excited about it. It was kind of okay, kind of not so great. But let's see here. Let me end with this. Let me share this screen here. You guys can check it out. The Lightbringer of everything. Here you go. So you've got Lightbringer, a true blockchain gaming platform, and this is based on Litecoin. It's like an RPG type thing. You get the level up. I thought it was gonna, it doesn't have any graphics, just real basic. Kind of as a test case. I thought it'd be interesting to share it, and log in, but it was so slow. Wasn't so exciting, but it's kind of moving things in a direction of blockchain gaming. The idea is that you're also able to then, as you earn, you can turn around and sell things for actual Litecoin. Interesting to me. So Mike, that's funny. When was the last time you visited the bank in your town? Yeah, that's true. All these the smaller banks will definitely be gobbled up by these major banks. Definite interesting direction things are moving in. So anyhow, this was really awesome. I appreciate you guys for being here with us today, right here on the How to Review on the Chain. If you guys liked the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Leave some comments for afterwards. Check everything out down below. If you guys want to see some of the coffees that we're drinking, you can check those out down below. There's links right over to Amazon if you want to check those out. You can support us and buy coffee for On the Chain. But more importantly, go down below, check out our Zoom, our Telegram channel. On the Telegram channel, you can engage with us, for more chat offline in the roundtable environment. Go to the website. I know we've talked about this for so long to tweak this website and add more value, but all of the videos that you'll see here are on the website, and you can always catch up on thechain.io. So go back, check that out. And I think that's it, man. You guys are all awesome. Thank you, DNI. Big shout out to DNI popping in here to listen in. So, appreciate that you're there. And then Morton, even my old father, who was allergic to computers, got into online gaming over the last months due to the beer flu. Lots happening. So with that, that's it. And I got nothing else. This is awesome. You guys are awesome. I'm just looking for our exit queue. Here we go.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.